We've got a massive deadline on the horizon, one that could seriously shake up decades of trade between the United States and Africa. A program that's been a lifeline for millions is set to just vanish, and the fallout could be fast and severe.
Okay, so I want you to get this date in your head, September 30th, 2025. On that day, a really important trade program between the US and Africa is scheduled to expire. So what does that actually mean for the economies, the industries, and, the millions of people whose jobs depend on it? Let's get into it.
All right, first things first. Before we dive into what happens when it's gone, we have to understand the program at the center of all this. It's called AGOA, and for more than 20 years, it's been the bedrock of U.S.-Africa trade.
So, AGOA stands for the African Growth and Opportunity Act. You can think of it as a golden ticket. It lets certain African countries export a whole bunch of products to the United States completely duty-free. It's basically a 0% tax rate. But, and this is the key part, that ticket has a very firm expiration date.
And we're not talking about a small program here. This thing covers 32 countries. It was specifically designed to help them build up their industries and create jobs. But here's the kicker. Renewing it isn't a given. It's not automatic. Congress has to actually do something, and that clock is ticking down fast.
So you might be thinking, okay, the problem is just that they lose this duty-free access. But honestly, it's a lot more complicated than that. For some of these countries, it's not just one problem. It's two massive hits coming at the exact same time.
Exactly. This isn't just a gentle off-ramp back to normal trade rules. For some key industries, it's more like driving off a cliff. We're talking about a sudden economic shockwave that could destabilize everything almost overnight.
And this is that 1-2 punch we're talking about. First punch, the 0% tariff from AGOA, gone, disappears. Then comes the second punch, a totally separate 25% US tariff gets slapped on top of certain goods. This is that double threat, and it makes this whole deadline incredibly dangerous, especially for anyone making cars. Let's put some real numbers to this, because this is where it gets kind of crazy. A car coming from South Africa right now has a 0% tariff. After the deadline, it would suddenly face the standard 2.5% tariff plus that new 25% one. That adds up to a staggering 27.5% tax. In a single day, their cars become way more expensive for anybody in America to buy.
It's easy to talk about this like it's just policy, but it has very real consequences for very real countries and the industries that are the backbone of their economies. So let's take a look at who's most exposed here.
If you take oil out of the picture for a second, what's left is crystal clear. The huge majority of trade happening under AGOA boils down to two things: cars, which was almost $2 billion worth in 2023, and clothes at over $1 billion. These are the two sectors sitting right in the crosshairs.
And this table really tells the story. For South Africa, cars are basically the whole game. We're talking nearly 2/3 of their AGOA trade. For Kenya, their apparel exports just hit a record high, and now they're facing this tariff cliff. And then you look at places like Lesotho and Madagascar, the apparel industry employs tens, even hundreds of thousands of people. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, these are people's livelihoods. To really feel the impact of this tariff shock, let's zoom in on one specific example, the booming apparel industry over in Kenya. Right now, today, a factory in Kenya can pack a shipping container full of shirts, send it to the US, and pay absolutely zero in tariffs. That is a massive advantage that's let them compete on the world stage and build up a huge business. But after September 30th, that same exact container of shirts is going to get hit with an average tariff of 26.4%. Just imagine your business costs jumping by more than a quarter overnight. That's the reality they're looking at. And it actually gets even more complicated.
Yeah, because it's not just the tariffs. There's another really important part of AGOA called the third country fabric rule. Now, what that meant was that apparel makers in a place like Kenya could import cheaper fabric from, say, China, make clothes with it, and still get that 0% tariff when they sold it to the US. Well, when AGOA expires, that rule disappears too, and that creates a huge supply chain nightmare.
So with this deadline barreling down on us, what are the options? What can these countries and businesses even do to get ready for what's coming?
It really seems to boil down to three main paths. The first is the quick fix, hope for a short-term extension of the program. The second is the long game, try to negotiate new one-on-one trade deals. And the third is the most drastic, basically a full redesign of their businesses to find new customers in new markets.
But none of these are easy fixes. There's a 1-year extension on the table, but it's just a proposal right now. The timing is totally up in the air. Kenya is scrambling to get its own deal done, but that stuff takes a long, long time. And other U.S. programs, like the GSP, they don't even cover apparel, so that's a non-starter. The only thing they can really control is diversifying, looking to Europe, the UK, or even trading more within Africa itself.
And this quote right here really gets to the heart of the logistical nightmare. What this means, in plain English, is that a ship full of clothes could leave port when AGO is still active, but if it arrives in the US one day after the deadline, it gets hit with those massive new tariffs. It all comes down to the moment of arrival, not departure. It's wild.
So, we're left with this huge question. Is this deadline going to be the painful end of an era, risking the jobs of hundreds of thousands of people? Or could it be the catalyst for something new? A different, maybe even more resilient chapter in U.S.-Africa trade? We're going to find out pretty soon, and honestly, the stakes couldn't be higher.